Selling your car to Carvana is as easy as...
As easy as pie?
Sure, all you have to do is enter your license plate or VIN.
As easy as a stroll in the park.
Okay, then just answer a few questions and you'll get a real offer in seconds.
As easy as singing.
Why not? Schedule a pickup or drop off and Carvana will pay you that amount right on the spot.
As easy as playing guitar.
Actually, I find that kind of difficult. But selling your car to Carvana is as easy as...
Can be.
Visit Carvana.com or download the app to get an instant offer today.
Shopify helps businesses break sales records over the holidays with the world's best converting checkout. Let's hear that one more time. The world's best converting checkout. Shopify's legendary checkout makes it easier for customers to shop on your website, across social media, and everywhere in between. Now that's music to your ears. Any way you spin it, you can be a smash hit with Shopify. Start your $1 a month trial today at shopify.com/records.
All right, here we go. Season 2. Hey folks, I'm Tyler with Black Diamond Softball and Fitness, bringing you a brand new season of the Foul Pole to Foul Pole podcast. I had a lot of fun in the first season talking to a lot of great guests. We talked recruiting, the mental approach, coaching. We talked to folks from all over the country, getting their first-hand knowledge to help us out. So in Season 2, I want to pick up right where we left off. And there's no better guest than Coach Sean Wade. He's the head coach at Paul D. Camp Community College. He's also the director of softball at TopHand Foundation. We jump right into a conversation and we get a lot of his personal experiences that he's had as a coach. And we learned a lot of different things that maybe we didn't know from beginning. This isn't just a 4-year decision. This is a 40-year decision. Check it out.
So my daughter actually committed or verbal to a D1 school up north. She had been going around and there was interest all over the place, from D3 all the way up to D1. And it was I don't know if you would call it mid-major, but it was a smaller D1 program, right? So there's all kinds of different levels in D1. Her dream was to play at Georgia, but she's 5'6", and at Georgia as a catcher, they like 5'9", at the time. So, and she was a big home run hitter as well, but she verbaled there. And this was her going into her senior year. And then she started researching what she wanted to do. So she wanted to go into be a physical therapist. So she was looking at exercise science programs and all that. So going up until that early signing, she started realizing that, okay, I'm going to have 2 more years of school after my 4 years. And this particular school was a $50,000 a year school. And they were going to give her the max athletic they could give her. They gave her what she qualified for, either her FAFSA or her academics, and it still was going to be close to like $80,000 student debt after 4 years. Yeah. And Davis and Elkins reached out last month and said, look, what's it going to take to get you here? And she said, well, honestly, right now it's about my education and money. And they said, well, we're going to give you this. And we have extra scholarship money because I don't know if a program folded or how that all worked, but she got extra money and her academics, FAFSA, all of that. And when it was all said and done, she only had $4,000 per year.
Wow.
To pay. So you're talking, and I think it averaged out once everything balances close to 20 grand. Let's just say that. Mm-hmm. And then she knew, all right, and this will tell you what changes for student athletes. She knew, okay, I'm going to have to go 2 years. It's $100 grand to go to this grad school. And then all of a sudden she said, I don't want that debt. I'm going to be a nurse. So she gets a 4-year degree with a couple minors and is now in her last year of RN school. So it tells you not just softball, but they're not even ready as a 9th, 10th, and sometimes 11th grader. And obviously, after 4 years of college, not really knowing where that education is going to take them.
Right.
And where they're going to change, because most kids statistically show that they change their major at least one time after the first 2 years. So
Absolutely. I just finished up school about a couple of weeks ago, and I graduated high school in 2002, and I just finished up undergrad in 2022. So, yeah, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I had to use my GI Bill. So I decided that's what I was going to do. So even me, in my case, not playing ball, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, and I'm supposed to know that now. So I can only imagine, haven't been to that spot yet, where, okay, not only are you looking for a school, but what are you trying to major in? Where are you trying to get your education? All that's going on in their head. And then now they're trying to practice. I'm trying to beat out this girl. This girl's coming in trying to beat me out. There's so much going on. There's so much pressure for the girls to kind of go through it. And I think on top of that, there's that stigma, like being afraid to say, I don't know what I'm doing here. There's too much pressure. I don't know how to talk to. And it goes on from D1 all the way down to however far you go to like a vocational school, a technical school. There's a lot of pressure there. And then you got the ones that pay attention to the money, and because they don't want to put mom and daddy in debt. So there's that added pressure of, now I got to get a job or something. How am I going to have money for the weekends and stuff like that? So there's a lot of pressure outside of the athletic part of it. With you being the head coach, what do you do to kind of talk to these girls even before they get to playing for you, and then while they're playing for you, to kind of alleviate some of that pressure, and be an outlet for these girls to be able to talk to you about that kind of stuff?
Well, luckily at the junior college level, 90% are coming to us for a reason. They need to get their grades straight, or their financial capabilities are at a level where they need to be at a junior college.
Right.
And some girls don't even want to leave close to home. They don't want to leave far from home, so they want to stay close by. In our situation, and again, every situation is differently. In our situation, we know the athlete that we're getting already. So what we try to do is understand what their plight is. To give you an example, so we were Division II this year. We're going to Division III coming up. So as a community college system, you can't provide dorm. So that's the one, when I said pros and cons, that's the one con for our system, where some other junior colleges can provide that. Obviously, it's a lot more money when you do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to recruit within a certain mile radius first,
right,
to get my. Most of our girls come from the Tidewater area, a couple towards Richmond. So within an hour's drive. So knowing that, they're going to take some classes online. We do have campuses spread out to where if they want to come, instead of driving all the way to our main campus, they can take in-person classes at a different campus.
Right. There's a lot of flexibility with that.
A lot of flexibility. We allow them to have jobs, and we tell them in the fall and in the winter, this is our practice schedule. Work after that. And I try to do everything in the mornings, early morning, 6 o'clock, be done by 9 or 10. We don't do 2-a-days and that kind of thing like you have at Division II and different programs, so that they can go work. Most of our girls have to have that, and they're driving back and forth a lot. Some girls partner up and get 4 girls for an apartment.
Right.
And share that, but they still, either their parents or themselves are paying for that expense. So
I think with you, like you were saying, coming in, and the girls that are coming in, you've had this discussion with them. you're letting them know the like what's available to them, kind of what's the program is going to be like. You have these extra campuses that are around that we can go, you know, in class, you can do online, and that gives that girl flexibility. And like I'm sure you understand this too. When we have flexibility, it seems like some of the pressure gets off of us. So I have this option of what I can do. I have these options, and this is when I can work. This is when I'm going to get my practice time in. It makes them feel a little bit better instead of this is the schedule you're going to have. This is when you're going to eat. This is when you're going to study. This is when you're going to go to class. It puts that pressure on them. It feels like they're being controlled. And we know with our youth, that's the last thing they want. They're tired of being told what to do. So once they get to college, they kind of feel this like this sense of freedom, but it's like guided freedom. You know, you still have some structure and they need that structure, but you let the girls kind of be themselves. And I think that translates, you know, to the team and on the ball field because they're able to be themselves. They're able to have their own personality.
And again, I think it's program to program, and in our situation, we're kind of having to work that situation. I do think that structure, like you say, is a great thing in some certain aspects. Now, they don't have time to eat, or if they're getting home at midnight trying to study, and then I mean that's going to wear for 4 years. That's going to wear on you.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm sure that there are people looking at that and seeing that is something that is wearing on their mental health and their physical health as well. We've seen a lot of this skyrocket, or at least get more attention over the past couple of years than we had, you know, even 10 years ago.
Right.
So, but there's just a whole lot of, you know, each division and each team and facilities. Like we don't have an indoor facility, so we use TopHand, which is where I do travel ball as well. So we'll go up and hit on rainy days. My flexibility for them is just to make sure that their main reason in junior college is to get that 2-year degree, play softball, and then we actually do have connections where if you're doing all the right things and you're producing, there are other 4-year colleges that we actually move our girls to.
Yeah.
Now, to be honest, probably out of each sophomore class, maybe only 2 to 3 end up wanting to go to another 4-year to play.
Right.
So some want, like I'll give you an example. I had a kid that I actually coached in high school before I got the college job, and she wanted to be a veterinarian, wanted to go to Virginia Tech, but she wanted to have less student debt. So she comes to Paul D, pitches for 2 years, does a great job. Coach, I'm hanging them up. I'm going to go get that last 2 years of veterinary, and then I guess she might even have even more schooling. But she did it for less money to get 2 more years of a sport that she loved. And does that diminish what she accomplished on the field? No, it doesn't. Just because she didn't continue on to a 4-year school, she had a great career for her path, and it's each path.
I do a lot of talking about the mental side of the game and about the individual part of the game, because we all understand softball is a team sport, like a lot of, but it's made up of individuals. And we get caught up in this. I've got to do what she's doing. I've got to do what they're doing. My team better be doing what this team is doing. And we forget that we have our own path. So when you mentioned that about her understanding, hey, this is my path, this is what I want to do, that's a message I think needs to get out more, because it, you know, like community college is right for a lot of people, but it doesn't get all the publicity that it should. It's kind of, a lot of times it gets looked down. Well, she's going to a community college. Well, this girl's also, you know, gotten some college credits while she was in high school. She's only got to go for maybe 4 or 5 more semesters, and she's done. She's got her degree in whatever she wants to do with a lot less debt, and she's going to go be doing her career, versus has none of that in high school done yet. Now she's going to D1, D2, or to some other college, and she's got to work her butt off even more. It's a lot of pressure, And then she's got all this debt on top of it. So when she's done with her playing career, she may not ever step on the field. But what does she have? Hey, I'm here. I went to whatever school, but the only thing I have to show for is a whole bunch of debt. And I think the more we can talk to those girls, each situation, of course, is going to be different. But if those girls understand that, hey, you're your own individual, create your own path. If it's right for you, great. If it may not be right for everybody else. So I'm
Well,
glad you said that.
yeah, and I think the key is that us coaches, we're under pressure um, to have certain size rosters and that kind of thing. Obviously, that helps your school. It also creates competition.
Mm-hmm.
So the pressure is on the coaches to get the players in. So maybe sometimes the coaches are under so much pressure, maybe they take a kid that maybe that is not really that great a fit, and you don't find out till 2 or 3 years down the road. Right. There's just a lot of variables that go into it. I think softball's been such an open sport over baseball, because I can remember, like, you see what, and not to get off subject, but just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. Baseball kept all of its hitting secrets and all of that. So
Right.
when I was growing up, it was teaching one swing path, down on the ball, that kind of stuff. And none of the major league guys were actually doing it. And if you watch MLB right now, they're teaching a swing they don't do. When they get on MLB Network and they show, knob to this and all, they don't do that. They're just regurgitating something easy that they think little kids can pick up. Mm-hmm. Softball, probably in the mid 2000s, and even before that, you could get videos and stuff with Candrea and different coaches and Sue Enquist and them. And then once Tim Walton and Jerry Glasgow infiltrated softball and brought the Major League Baseball swing in, they've been open about that.
Right.
So I would think on the recruiting side of things that we as coaches, whether it's D1 all the way to junior college, could be more open about these are your options. Mm-hmm. And most of my colleagues that I know, I've had D3, D2, D1 say, hey, if I see a kid that can't work for me, I'm going to send them to you. Or maybe they need to get a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, maybe need to work on a certain skill set. Mm-hmm. We'll send them. So within our circle, that is always talked about. I think recruiting educational questionnaires and meetings or whatever you would want to say, it needs to be a broad spectrum. Again, I don't want to push a kid that is academically and athletically on par with a D2, D1 program, or even a high-level D3 program. I don't want to push that kid to come play for me because, I want that super player, right. But because it may not be the best fit.
I'm sure you've been in the situation too, where you get a girl that's come in and she's busted her butt and she's got her schoolwork done and she's excelling and she's on that next level. And they go ahead and they take their education, what they've learned and their skill set, and then they move on to a different college, a 4-year program, and just knowing somewhat about you and how you are. And just talking to you, like, I'm sure you promote that and say, hey, let's go. I'm all for that.
100%. I've been at Paul D now 4 years, going on my 5th year. We've had 3 Division I players transfer to Division I colleges. We've had 2 players transfer to Division II. And they've had opportunities, obviously, to go to Division III. The thing with Division III in our areas is the schools are expensive. So once they come to us, if they were going to go D3, they probably would have done so in the first place, just because of financials and circumstances. So we look to try to get them somewhere that they're gonna get less tuition, whether it's athletic scholarship money or maybe that school has a better financial package. So,
Right. Well, as we shift gears here just a little bit,
yeah.
the players that you get to come play for you at Paul D. Um,
This is the smell of a warm 3-day-old egg salad sandwich in a wimpy trash bag.
Wimpy, wimpy, wimpy!
Blech. And this is the smell of that same sandwich in a hefty, ultra-strong trash bag with new Fabuloso lemon scent.
Hefty, hefty, hefty!
Smell the difference? When life gives you stinky, get Hefty Ultra Strong with new Fabuloso lemon scent. It smells like clean, freshly picked lemons. So no matter what's inside your trash, you can stop the stink and smell the lemon.
Hey guys, it is Ryan. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm a bit of a fun fanatic when I can. I like to work, but I like fun too. It's a thing. And now the truth is out there. I can tell you about my favorite place to have fun. Chumba Casino. They have hundreds of social casino style games to choose from with new games released each week. You can play for free anytime, anywhere. And each day brings a new chance to collect daily bonuses. So join me in the fun. Sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void were prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
You know them from the being in the travel ball. You are the director at Top Hand, and you're intertwined with a lot of it. I know some of the coaches there. I know some of the parents there. Some of the families there. I got lucky enough to meet them last year down here at Myrtle Beach, and every time I've talked to them, somehow, some way, if we're talking about the organization, talking about a team, your name just pops up, and they speak highly of you. So tell us a little bit about how Top Hand, how it kind of came about, and then where we are today with Top Hand and what you guys are looking to do in the future. And let us know kind of what makes you do Top Hand the way you do Top Hand.
Whew. Well, first of all, I'm glad that they told you that. So that's awesome. Well, with Top Hand, so I was coaching baseball in 2008, 2009. And my daughter was playing travel ball for a couple teams about an hour away. And she came to me and said, Dad, why don't we, because the rec ball area in our area was really good. Why don't you just coach softball? Why don't you start a softball program? Now, I always work with her individually, but I wanted her to experience different coaching coming up. Through rec ball, I never coached her in rec ball or early travel ball. So I met with a lady, and her name is Steph Wood, and we co-founded Southampton Storm. So for about 4 years, we were Southampton Storm, and the premise was that our area is a real rural area. Are these girls going to get the opportunities that they deserve? And the whole focus was, because at the time I really didn't know a lot about the recruiting starting out. The whole focus was trying to get these girls money for education,
right?
And play competitive softball. So for almost 5 years, we had a really successful program in an area that most people wouldn't have thought would have produced so many good softball players. So we started that, and Rustin Jesse, his dad, Randy Jesse, coached me in high school, coached me in baseball. And he came to my facility, and I told him, dynamics had changed in our area where volleyball was coming in. And if you're going to have a batting cage, which I had a batting cage and facility at the time, you needed to have multiple sports, multiple things going. And our area, just because of its size and just the population, we're not going to support it as a long-term thing.
Right.
So I was looking to merge. So I merged in with Top Hand, who was a baseball group at the time, and I think they had only had an 8U team. So they asked me to come in and be their softball director to get their softball program off the ground. And since I've already done that, had experience in doing that in Southampton, it was just a move that was natural. So we started Top Hand. I learned from some of the mistakes that I made at Southampton Storm. I had already learned after 4 years of how recruiting was going. And at the time, you see a lot of programs now bringing in college coaches, right? You see all these camps. At the time, that was not going on. There was only like one program that I can think of in the Tidewater area at the time that was doing that on a consistent basis.
Right.
Well, I had to make sure that at the time at Southampton that I was thinking outside the box. How am I going to get these girls seen? Yes, we go to the particular tournaments, but how do we get them on the radar? So I was bringing in college coaches all the time, just bringing them in. And plus our coaches learning from those college coaches. Because if you're not teaching what they're teaching at the next level, you're not really accomplishing a whole lot. So developing those relationships. So now everybody's doing that. But at the time, 2010, 2011, it wasn't as prevalent.
Right.
So when I went to TopHand, I took that same model, but I did had one thought that we made a mistake at Southampton Storm. If you've noticed a lot of travel ball, they'll have the name of the organization on the front of the jersey, but every team is separate, right? It's just a name. And I felt like we were still in a small area. Emporia is not a ton bigger in the surrounding area, right? So I said, okay, how can we make this more successful than just putting TopHand Storm on our jerseys and let such and such coach this team and nothing. So when we got together, we took the coaches and sat down and said, look, there are apples to oranges. There are certain things that if you're teaching on a team, it's not going to be a big deal. But hidden philosophy, how we train, what the absolutes are.
Right.
So we got together and and this is another model. In winter training, all of our coaches coach all of our players from 8U all the way to 18. So you don't get this sense of, oh, well, this is my team or this is my player. It's, hey, everyone, just like when Josh Griffin was talking to you about their tournament they won this weekend, every coach in the organization feels ownership to that. Just like Josh and Jason and those guys on that team, they feel ownership when 18U is successful because they have had a hand in practice. So that was the progression that we did, and I don't know that it works for everybody, but I know it works for us.
Right.
TopHand started real small. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I see it. I'm talking with Jason and talking with Josh, like you were saying. It works for what y'all are doing.
Right, and again, we're not going to have 100 kids come out to our trials. I mean, a lot of times we make rare cuts. I mean, rarely, because like I said, we don't have 100 kids, and there's a lot of big organizations that do. Mm-hmm. So how do we compete with them? I mean, they won against a couple teams that are big organizations this past weekend, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we compete with that? We don't want to just beat the teams that are locally or compete with those teams. We want to be able to compete as a small market against those big teams because we want to show that our girls have that opportunity and have that talent. The only way to do it is to be together, have the same philosophies, have the same training for everybody. Right. So that when they go up, let's say you have a 14U kid that's ready to play some 18U and we have an injury and we say, hey, this weekend you come up, you have the same system. We run the same offensive plays. We run the same defensive cuts, those kind of things. So that's kind of how we did philosophy-wise with TopHand. And then TopHand, obviously, with Elliot and Rustin and everybody that's involved there, they try to keep costs low with fundraising. There's a lot of organizations do bingo, and that has its perks. Obviously, I mean, you can make a lot of money to be able to fund the programs, mm-hmm. but most parents, if you ask them to choose, do you want to pay a monthly fee or you want to try to do fundraising? They're going to do one or the other instead of spending a whole Saturday doing bingo.
Right.
So between fundraising, local business support, obviously having Elliott Sadler a part of the program helps a lot because, I mean, he's reached out to, I have a really strong network of college coaches, but if Elliott is able to call a UNC or an Appalachian State or whoever, they're going to pick up the phone and Elliott's going to, be able to see what he can do to help us continue to succeed. So,
right. I did have the opportunity to talk to Elliott, and one thing that came off first and foremost is you could just tell it's not about him, man. It's about the team and that family environment. It's about that network of people that's there in and around the organization. And it doesn't matter if the girl or the gentleman has come and gone from the organization and they've moved on and now they're old enough and they've moved out or moved on, or it's that girl that doesn't know if she can even play with Top Hand. I mean, he cares about each and every one. I think when you have people like that, that's promoting the organization, and it helps tremendously because it seems like talking to Josh and Jason and Elliott, it's a one big family. And now talking with you, that's what it seems like. You guys are, it's one unit, and it's growing, but it's not growing where you're just giving the label to somebody and say, here, you can wear our Top Hand Storm and just let it go.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, so it's still a rural area around a small city, right? So the people that you're going to draw from, because rarely we're going to get somebody from the other side of Richmond, right? That's awesome if that happens. We're welcoming to that. But you figure Elliott grew up in Emporia, so he wants to see his community grow.
Mm-hmm.
Russ, Top Hand is not just a softball or baseball program; it's a foundation. So he's outreaching to that community. So when you do that, and you know what the values of the people are around you, you have to make it that family environment. Now, obviously, in any organization, there's always something going on that you have to manage. But the model for them, and I tell people all the time, they're a bigger organization, right? There are huge organizations out there that are successful doing what they do. If we try to mimic that or go that route, we're going to lose out because we're not good at that. There's certain things that we aren't able to do there, but we've been very successful. I think last time we counted, we have 38 girls. If you merge Southampton Storm with Top Hand Storm that have gone on to play college softball, our whole junior class has a lot of interest. We don't have any seniors this year. So we're getting it done on our level.
Mm-hmm.
Have we had anybody go to D1? No, not because they weren't recruited. I mean, we've had at least 7 or 8 girls that were recruited. But again, small town. They usually go to small schools.
Right.
What is when they graduate, what are they familiar with? They normally want to go to that small school, whether it's JUCO, D2, D3, NAIA.
Right.
So we've had some really good girls that could have played Division I. That's no doubt about it.
I talk a lot about defining your own success and not using someone else's definition to determine your level of success. With my daughters and with some of the teams that I'm connected to around here and some of the lesson stuff I give, it's always based on that individual. And like you were just mentioning, you could go out and try to do what these other organizations are doing, but it's not you. It's not, what you guys are doing. You are successful in what you do in that community, and it works for you. These other bigger organizations, they probably couldn't do what you do. Just pull from that one community, and that's all we do. It's not them. So with you having the identity what the Top Hand has. You've seen the successes that you've had. In the future, what do you see, and what's going to, like, as you guys grow, the foundation and the organization, as you guys grow, what does the future look like for you guys now, and then a little bit down the road here, as far as the community and the baseball and softball aspects?
Well, we put let's go to the physical side, the athletic side first. We put a tremendous amount of value on training, educating the coaches, staying on the same philosophy, finding out what the college coaches are training, and then also having our own little kind of a special way of thinking outside the box, right? So if you're training hard and you're doing the right things and you're teaching the right things, athletically, you're going to see players improve. And it's all about getting better. People put wins and losses up, right? If you walk in our facility, you'll see plaques from baseball, trophies, and softball. I mean, we've got them from the first year I was at Top Hand 2014 all the way up until now, right? So most people would look at that. That's defining success. You guys have won tournaments, but you know what winning those tournaments and things have done? Hasn't really grown us numbers wise.
Right.
Like that, people always think, man, they see you winning, they see you beating these upper echelon surrounding organizations, but you're not getting 100 people at tryout, right? So I don't think we can look at that as success, because winning those trophies didn't bring in more players. What we can look at those trophies and say, we started here and we have really competed and improved and gotten better. And all of our teams have been successful in one way or another. Mm-hmm. The way I define it, especially being as a 18U coach, and any of our baseball showcase team is, when you're showcasing, the wins and losses aren't even relevant, because some people go 1-1 in the count, and some people it's a time limit, or hey, it's free substitute, I can run for whoever. So you can't really gauge wins and losses. Are we competing against who we're supposed to compete with? Or have we gotten better to be able to compete a good portion of a game with a really high level team? And when we do that, are our girls getting opportunities to play at the collegiate level? Right. So I think that's been our philosophy from the get-go. And I think it will always, as we grow, be our philosophy. I'm hoping it would be. On the foundation side, I think it's, go ahead, Coach.
I'll just end it. I agree with that same mentality of it, winning these tournaments and winning these competitions and winning whatever it is. If people are coming because of that, they're also going to leave if you have a lull and you have losses. And so it's really no way to sustain that growth. It's, it's that development. And that's what you guys are all about, is developing it one way, our standard, and then letting our coaches be themselves as they coach. But there's always one standard, so they can move up in the organization as they go. And it's not something different. It's not Coach Smith coaches it this way, Coach Jones coaches it this way. And then when they get to that level and they have Coach Jones now, or Coach Smith says, hey, I have more player that I need to move up. Now that girl gets there, and it's not awkward for her. She's still wearing the same uniform, still being coached the same way. The philosophy is still the same. The plays are still the same. She can go and succeed because it's not foreign to her.
Right. 100%. And I think you start spinning your wheels. So I'll give you an example. So we never, and I'm just speaking on the 18U level, because I actually went down and coached 12U all the way up, went down again. And I was coaching 12 and 18s. This is before I got the college job. And it was a lot of fun, and got to be able to experience it on both levels, at the younger level and at the 18U. But you're spinning your wheels, because we had never had a losing season We've either been 500 or above, if you want to count record, which is hard to do in travel softball, at any of the teams that I was able to be a part of, 12U, 14s, 16, 18s, right?
This is the smell of a warm 3-day-old egg salad sandwich in a wimpy trash bag.
Wimpy, wimpy, wimpy.
Blech. And this is the smell of that same sandwich in a hefty, ultra-strong trash bag with new Fabuloso lemon scent.
Hefty, hefty, hefty.
Smell the difference? When life gives you stinky, get Hefty Ultra Strong with new Fabuloso lemon scent. It smells like clean, freshly picked lemons. So no matter what's inside your trash, you can stop the stink and smell the lemon.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
COVID hits. We had just won USSSA National Championship and had most of the girls coming back, not all, because some of them had graduated. That when we were able to finally get on the field, we only had like a week of practice and had to go. And we struggled. We played maybe 500 softball that summer. So that's how I know that our practices and our development is what drives our program, because we had almost the same talent, had added some girls. We had a lot bigger roster too, and we could get in that at some point if you wanted to. But we struggled a lot worse. And then the next year, we finished above 500. And then this year, I have a very young 18U team that has competed their tails off in some of the harder tournaments. And they're very young. And I divine that as success. Like we didn't do any really regular tournaments to win a trophy, right? They were young. I'm like, look, we got to learn how to compete at this level. And they did. Did they get beat at times by bigger programs? Absolutely, they did. But to see them improve and to see what they're doing in their high school teams, it's that growth, growth and development. And as far as on the foundation side, I know Rustin's vision is, Rustin has a huge heart, and his vision is to help wherever he can.
Right.
So is it growing building wise or growing programs? I'm sure that comes with it, but it started at the grassroots level, which is what he's passionate about,
Right. You did mention roster, and I did want to ask you about roster size because you're intertwined with a lot of the teams within TopHand. So you know the rosters that you have, baseball side and softball side, and then coaching Paul D. Camp Community College, you have a different roster for different purposes. So with cost on the parents in mind, what is, well, there's not, I'm not going to say ideal, but in a situation where we're talking 10U, 12U, 14U, before they start getting recruited and looked at that side, where's your happy ground at as far as the size of a roster? And we'll talk softball. Where do you see, where is it for you that's not necessarily easy to manage the numbers and playing time and that kind of stuff, but where you don't feel that pressure of this girl's not playing so much, the positional thing, like where are you at on a numbers game for you at the, 10, 12 and 14U level?
I'm going to give you my personal view and an organizational view.
Right.
So that way everybody can see so many sides of it.
Right.
To me, travel ball is travel ball. It's not recreation ball. So personally, if you want to have every inning of every game guaranteed, stay in rec ball as long as you can or feel like that's what your individual family's needs are.
Right.
I know most coaches don't want to manage more than 12 because of that same scenario. However, are you creating enough competition, right? Because when they get to college, it's going to be 25 girls or more. For Newport had 30, you know, they're probably going to win the national championship. I hope I didn't jinx my buddy Keith over there, but they had 30 something and they cut some, which is tough.
Yeah.
So 25 or more kids. If you've never experienced having to compete to play or play for a position, when you get to college, it's going to be the biggest culture shock. It's going to be huge. And my personal best team had 15 or more players on it. Now, I had one that had 17 players that, again, that COVID summer, we didn't do so well. But one of my best teams at Southampton Storm had 16 players, but it was personnel driven. We had 3 pitchers that were not great defensive players and weren't really great hitters. So that's 3 down right there that they're going to pitch, right? Then we had some girls that were really good defensive players, but weren't great hitters, and some great hitters that were not great defensive players. So you could mold and mix and match that. So right. I think it's personnel driven. Same thing as our national team that we won that USSSA Nationals. We had 15 to 16 players, but we had 2 pitchers or 3 pitchers that didn't do anything else. And it was all personnel driven. So I think if you personnel it, if you have the right personnel, it can be effective. Now, the next thing is teaching a player that your role is important on this team. You may not play second or shortstop every inning of every game, right? But in one game, you're going to play in the outfield. Let's say you play left field and you're going to contribute. The next game, you might be a runner. The next game, you might be a pinch hitter. Right. Now, I will say this. If you carry a large roster and if you're playing regular tournaments, if that kid can't get a start 2 out of your 3 pool games, you shouldn't give her a jersey because what are you carrying her for? I mean, she's not developing. She's not getting opportunities. It's all about opportunity. Mm-hmm. And then you take who's successful and you go into your.
I was going to say when we talk, when I was talking, I guess I was talking to Jason first. We had talked about like when he like guest players, like when he needs a guest player or whatever the situation comes up to where he may need somebody. His first thing was to me, he's like, man, I know it's a far distance for you to come to get her to come play with us or whatever. I can't guarantee how much playing time, this and that. And so, but me and him are on the same wavelength. It's, dude, this is your team. This is your roster. You're going to run it. I don't expect anything. So I think it comes down to the parents understanding as well, as much as the kid, because when that parent goes home and has to talk to the kid and the kid starts saying, I don't get to play as much. I don't get this. The parent has to kind of be that in between, that go between of helping their child understand it's not necessarily all about playing time, but when you get your opportunity, you've got to go for it, because when they get older, that playing time is determined. Are you the best option we have at this spot?
Right. And again, I think if they embrace their role, and it's just like on a college team, if you're a bullpen catcher, you may not catch very often, but your role, even though it looks very finite, mm-hmm. your role is huge on that team. And in a 4-year span, if you get better and better and better, you're the better option. I mean, I'll give you an example. We had a kid, not that went through my organization, but lived out in our area. She went and played at Campbell University and was a bullpen catcher for 3 years. But her 4th year, she started. So it's something to be said about dedication, loyalty, and going through that, because you're going to be better off in life than someone who had it perceived, handed to them, or had it easy. Yeah. And I don't think any coaches are handing out playing time just to hand it out. I really don't believe that somebody's playing over favoritism. It's about performance. But as far as the large roster, I think in the perfect world, if you could have more than the 10 to 12 that most teams are taking, you're going to create a competition that is healthy for everybody. And if you can get them all on the same role, or understanding their defined role, then it can work. Right. Unfortunately, in our area, it is tough to do that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, and so you have to balance. You have to balance that. But it's just like kids that leave teams and go to other teams. The grass is not always green.
You're right.
There's no perfect situation. So you either want to get growth and development, or you want to get big time exposure. I don't know many programs. Maybe if you go out west, probably, or some of the bigger programs around that do growth and development and huge exposure. That's few and far between, to be honest.
It's a balancing act for sure. And you try to get it to where you have a good number in case there's an injury, in case there's an illness, but you don't want to carry too many because you don't want too many having to sit, because then you're looking at combination of players. She's really good at third, but I can't use her in the outfield for this reason and stuff. So you have to, it's always that mental numbers game that you have to play. And, truth be told, we're dealing with children, and what we try to understand and tell ourselves, so we're okay with it. It's hard to translate that down to that child, so she understands it to where, it's just not it's not a good combination that we have out here for your position or for you're good at. And the older they get, it helps them understand it, but it's just tough. And you don't want to tell a kid that you're just not good enough. And especially in an organization like that you have, that community and what you're pulling from. I mean, you're trying to build it up as much as you can. Like, I'm hearing things about a developmental team that girls are kind of coming in. They may not be on that travel team, but they're able to participate in practices and kind of earn their spot, and then kind of learn the TopHand way to maybe one day be on in the organization, be on a roster, and be able to compete. But having to explain that to a child is tough.
Oh, it's really tough. But here's the thing: they all play video games. They compete on video games.
Right.
They all go to school. They have to compete in school. So I think the issue is that if you explain to people that you have to compete and get better, and your path is not always the same path as that shortstop that plays every inning of every game, because we know God doesn't make many shortstops, right? So it's easier in some positions to train multiple people, but that shortstop is probably going to be a staple on your team the whole time. So your path is not the same as that shortstop. Now, does the shortstop have her trials and tribulations? Absolutely. It's a focal point position, and you're going to make some errors, and it's going to be rough. So I think we do a bad job as coaches, like the whole coaching environment. We do a really good job of all of the softball stuff, but that message right there, we don't necessarily do a great job of it, because you're dancing around really what the situation is, that, hey, she needs more or he needs more development.
I think as coaches in general, I take the hit on it as well. All of us, we don't do a very good job at setting the proper expectations a lot of times. I think because we truly don't want to hurt a kid's feelings. And what happens is we end up hurting that kid's feelings down the road, when we could have tempered the expectations in front with the parents too. And we get to a certain point where that kid, it's like a shock. Well, wait a minute, this isn't isn't what I was told, or this isn't the way it was explained to me.
Right. Yep.
So, you have a great perspective on the two sides of it that I like to cover: the college part and the travel part. And I want to let you know that anytime you want to join the podcast, I'm getting together like a roundtable type thing, other coaches, different perspectives, stuff like that. I want to have you on. Again, we can get into a little bit deeper on maybe just one or two of the topics that we can dive into. Maybe we'll get into the mental side of the game that you see from the high schoolers coming up into the college ranks, helping them adjust. And then also the side of it where you got school ball girls and travel ball girls trying to find that right fit in the school to get, their expectations as far as playing time and getting that right education. Because, man, I think what you're doing with TopHand is great, and you're touching a lot of people. The organization, the foundation, and you being the one of the big leaders, a part of that organization, man. I can't thank you enough for what you do for all of us in the softball community.
I appreciate that. And I know we had talked about maybe going into a little bit of overuse and that kind of thing. And so if you had another 5 minutes or something,
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what is your opinion on when you hear that term overuse? What's your definition of overuse and just kind of take off?
Well, I was stubborn back in the day. So I didn't even think that was really a problem back when I first started, because I just thought, all right, we got to do all year round because we got to get better, and this is what we have to do.
Right.
And we have tried to figure out a balance, and we're not perfect yet for sure. We're at TopHand. We're definitely trying to find that balance of how we're always tweaking our program to try to figure out what's the best.
Right.
It did occur to me. It occurred to me before, but it really hit home. To give you an example, so my daughter had caught every inning of every game but one inning her whole entire college career. But she also bullpenned at practice and before games. So she ended up with a knee injury and 2 hip labrum tears. Played through the knee and the hip labrum her junior year and was going to play through her COVID year, but obviously COVID hit. Was going to try to play through it, and then it was so painful, and she was going to have surgery that even if COVID hadn't hit, she was not going to be able to fully play. So when I look at that, and even when she was playing travel ball for me, I made sure that we had 1 or 2 other catchers and would split that time so she wouldn't be overused. I think it's a real thing. And I think what the problem is okay, so let's go through everything. Let's start in high school. Most high school teams, the majority of practice is throwing, right? 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be good.
Right.
Especially the first full hour, you're either warming up and still throwing instead of working on different skills, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of high school students that go through that. And travel ball, now it's even gotten crazier, because years ago you could play in the spring and it wasn't as prevalent now, but I'm seeing injuries because they're playing so many games in the spring. And then we cram a bunch of games in the summer, especially on the older group. And then do we give them enough time off before showcase season starts again in the fall? Then we have training in the winter. So what we've tried to do, and I'm going to do this year, I'm going to give the 18U team, showcase team, a month off after August. Mm-hmm. And then most of the showcases now are October, November in our area. And then we usually give them a couple weeks off for Thanksgiving and a couple weeks off Christmas and New Year's. But I don't know. I think, and we do so much softball, even if it's not throwing, we're doing mechanics and stuff. Right. Should we be focusing more on the exercise science part?
Right.
Not just weightlifting, but
That's true.
should they be doing yoga? Should they learn how to stretch? Should they know how to overcompensate one side of the body versus the other? And that's where I'm weak at as far as skill level. I can teach the hitting, the fielding, all of that, but that's not my strong suit. So it's something that I'm really focusing on and really trying to study and get information on, because I've seen more injuries.
This is the smell of a warm 3-day-old egg salad sandwich in a wimpy trash bag.
Wimpy, wimpy, wimpy.
Blech. And this is the smell of that same sandwich in a hefty, ultra-strong trash bag with new Fabuloso lemon scent.
Hefty, hefty, hefty.
Smell the difference? When life gives you stinky, get Hefty Ultra Strong with new Fabuloso lemon scent. It smells like clean, freshly picked lemons. So no matter what's inside your trash, you can stop the stink and smell the lemon.
And nagging injuries that just carry on because there's not enough break.
I was going to ask, on the collegiate level, girls coming in, how many girls do you think have no idea how to stretch, warm up properly when they get to you? Like they didn't have a program. Their teams, their high school teams, their travel teams, there wasn't enough focus on it.
Well, the overall stretching, all of that is not as emphasized. We think stretching is 10 minutes of karaoke's and Frankenstein, right?
Right.
So that's a huge thing. And girls come into a collegiate level, and the first thing you realize is halfway through a season, their legs are gone, right? Because they're not female athlete. I mean, it's any human being, but a female athlete in softball is going to rely on defense and offense a lot on their lower half.
Yeah.
So while we're getting them in and bulking them up here,
yeah,
I don't know enough about it, so I'm not going to criticize or say that's what we should be doing.
Right.
But the lower half. So, and we had a lot of injuries this year at Paul D. I mean, we had to load manage at the end of the year. Like, we didn't throw a lot at the end of the year because we were playing so many makeup games. And just injuries and nagging injuries. So that's my focal point coming up, is trying to figure out what's going to be best. And I'll be honest, 1 year at TopHand, the best thing we ever did was we had our boxing instructor train our girls. Right. Footwork, and eye coordination. And he's not there right now. I'm not sure if he's training. I know he's got a student for Junior Olympics or whatever, but I mean, just their footwork, knowing their body, working on both sides of their body. And that was amazing. We also do have a weightlifting trainer at TopHand, and we don't get a chance for some reason to get our girls into that. So that's a whole new thing. I think we're going to focus more on that as opposed to pitching in December, January, February, all that. But injuries, and look, the last thing I'll say for that is, when you are hurt, don't play through it. Try to get it checked out, especially when you're hurt to a point where it's in pain and you're just trying to push through.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. You'll see those girls, man, and they got that nagging injury, and it stays with them the whole season because they just won't give themselves time. They won't speak up. Coach Sean, I got, my finger is twisted sideways, but I'm good. I can tape it. I'm good. No, like, let's take a couple of weeks off and let's get this thing right. I had to manage this year, my oldest daughter's team, and they got riddled with injuries. I think at some point, every single girl on the team had something nagging. 2 starting pitchers went down. She had to come in. She ended up getting banged up on her hand. So, I mean, they're down pitchers, girls are moving out of position and stuff. And the coach did, luckily, thankfully, like, he managed those injuries and ended up getting them into the playoffs. And he had to deal with it. So this is the first time that my daughter actually got to see firsthand, you got to take care of your body. And when you are injured, take care of it. And let's get rid of this injury before we go pressing into something else. because you're going to overcompensate. You're going to hurt yourself again. And now you're 6 months down the road. And we're still dealing with this nagging injury.
Well, and the last, and what I'll say is I got Bruce Lee right behind me. Big picture of Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar trained with Bruce Lee in the 70s, right? So they asked him what was his longevity attributed to, and he said training with Bruce Lee, but mainly stretching and how each muscle in your body is trained a certain way. But he said stretching by itself, he feels like learning what he learned from Bruce Lee. I mean, what did Kareem play? 20-some years, right? As a big man, which most men are out after 10 years. So I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan. So I'm reading some of his stuff now, like trying to figure out what can I do with our girls to get them just thinking out of the box and trying to figure out what's going to, but that's what he said. I saw an interview of him saying that.
Buy into the stretching, man. It's huge as far as the longevity in the sport. And like you were saying, you'll see girls that they come in there, then halfway through the season, they don't have legs. They're just now they're trying to, manage their time, and they can't go full board. So they're not getting as much training in as they should. And it just it snowballs after that. And then boom, before you know it, they just lost their freshman season. Now they're in the off season going into their sophomore year, can't put in the work in the off season because now they're actually rehabilitating an injury that they could have done before. So now their sophomore season may be affected too. So by the time they're ready to get going, it's their, junior year. And, finally they're healthy. But now you got a freshman coming in that's chasing that spot too. So it's just all that stuff that goes into the mental side of it. And we can touch the physical side of it, but we don't know how that girl's going to bounce back from that injury. And if we can help prevent that injury in the beginning, I think that's worth our time to, like you said, study it and get as good as we can possibly get at it. And on that note, as an educator, as a leader, I would get your opinion on this. As the sport changes and with the world, I think what we're seeing now is more coaches open to learning from one another instead of my way is the best way and I'm not going to listen to anything you've got to say. So in your experiences, how much have you learned from other coaches, your peers, and how much have you also been able to kind of lend a hand to, your competitors and your peers to help grow the game?
Well, I can tell you that when I came along as a coach and when my daughter started out in rec ball, and obviously I wasn't coaching her in rec ball, I didn't know enough about the mechanics. I mean, I played, but, playing and knowing it is two different things. But I knew that the swing that they were trying to teach there's no way it was right, just upper body, right? So I called around to our local area, and the head coach who's now at Norfolk State, Jim Nzama, who I think everybody gives him props to being one of the best pitching coaches, but he's actually one of the best hitting coaches. He taught me a lot. I took my daughter to lessons for him. I learned a lot from him, how to get through the girls, the female athlete, and the hitting mechanics. And then when I started seeing, I'm a type of guy that I want to learn from the top 5 programs, right? So I looked up who's the top defensive, and Hofstra was one of them at one time, which they're old assistant coaches at UNC Wilmington, which did everything they could to try to get out of that regional the other day. So defense, I studied Hofstra. And offense, when Georgia was hitting all them home runs, it came in like 20 home runs at one year, and then the next year they hit 99. I'm like, who's responsible for that? With Jerry Glasgow, who's at Louisiana now. So I would go down and watch film and learn and talk the game with him. So in no way am I a self-made coach. I had my own thought process and had my own, okay, this looks right. This is what I identify with. Let me learn it now. And then if you're not learning, so I'm 47 and I've been coaching since coaching since 2008, but in softball 2009, 10ish. If you're not learning every year, you're falling behind because there's so many studies out there. Biomechanics are huge in this sport. It's a copycat league. So as soon as one team is successful doing with something, everybody else is going to follow. So if you're not at least keeping up or informed, you're falling behind. So that's what I try to tell our coaches. Look, explore your own way, right? Find out what works for you and your personnel, but also understand that you need to be familiar with other things so that if one kid is struggling on that, you can help her with a different technique. Yeah. So that's kind of my philosophy on it. And growing the game, we have to be open. And no matter how good you are and successful you are, you can learn something from someone else, right? I've always been a big rotational hitting guy. I learned everything from Jim Manzana and Jerry Glasgow and watching film, but I'm starting to look into the turn to barrel type of stuff, you know? Do I think that the turn to barrel thing is going to be as prevalent in girls softball? It remains to be seen, because I do think the lower half is important, really important in the game of softball, not just turning the barrel, but we're incorporating both into our program. So that's just something new.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I agree. We're talking about like hitting mechanics and rotational versus turning the barrel. I think a lot of it is determined by what the pitching instructors are coaching and teaching their prospects, because I've seen lately, well, just in this last, I'd probably say 4 or 5 months, is the top of the strike zone is where pitchers are living. If it's just at the top of the strike zone, either a little bit in or a little bit out, what they're doing is they're getting it up there close to the hands, getting it up in their eyes so they can see it. And they're pushing the limits of that strike zone up. And so a girl is having to choose, do I take this? Because, last time it was a ball, but it's in the same spot. He's going to give it a strike this time. And also that high fastball, you've got to get on it early. You're just never going to catch up to it. So you see a lot of pitches being called rise balls, but it's really just a high fastball. So is turning the barrel or rotational better for hitting that high, mid 60s fastball in the top of the zone? Us as hitting instructors, we've got to determine, what's the best way for us to teach. And honestly, the best way is to incorporate both of them, because you truly just, you don't know.
Well, the thing about that is, you remember when softball were 2-1 games, and then they moved the mound back 43 feet. And then obviously Jerry and Tim Walton and those guys, changed the game with the swing, right? Major League Baseball swing. Well, if balls keep flying out of the park with these hot bats, what I predict is you're going to see the NCAA, even though they love the home runs and they love the offense because it's bringing viewership to the game, they're going to do something to help the pitchers. They've already are going to allow them to leap.
Mm-hmm.
They're being a lot more liberal on those type of things. Eventually, with those bats and stuff, eventually they're going to do something more to help the pitchers. But they also want the game to be exciting. As far as that high softball, it's a great pitch, but I tell you what, when people start learning how to deal with it, the ball's in the park a lot. Look at Oklahoma. You throw them high, eventually it's going out of there.
I think you're right as far as they need to change something here probably pretty soon in the next couple of years as far as getting that pitcher. I look at it from the safety side of it. Those bats, when they come off the line, they are at the threshold. In the summer, they get hit a little bit, they get broke in a little bit. Those things have got to be out of the specs, whatever, in legal bat or as far as compression is concerned. I've seen this past weekend, some of those, you can't even see it come off the bat. That's how, that girl, she's throwing 70. That bat speed, who knows what the bat speed truly is, but it's coming off of that, and a line shot back to the pitcher. the third baseman's really close. I mean, it gets to a safety standpoint for me, and I love the game, and I like it. It's as fast and as powerful as it can be, but I've also around a lot of younger girls, and I don't want to see that trickle down to where there's an older 12 playing against some younger 12s, and she smokes one down the line, and that little girl can't defend herself. And could we have done something? And I know it's going to start at the collegiate level and work its way down, but that's, I want it to be fun for everybody, but I want it to be, safe, because I do have daughters in the game too.
Yeah. Well, the last thing on that is I used to not be a proponent of mass because I felt like it impairs your vision and you weren't fundamental. But because of the bats and stuff, I have no problem with it now. I mean, wear them because you got to protect everything up here. But the last thing I'll say on that is I don't want to see the game eventually in the next 10 years go to where slow pitch softball went. When I was playing slow pitch softball, the DeMarini double barrel had just came in, and it had some pop, but defense was still in the game of slow pitch softball, right? Little guys coming up there and just hitting them 300 feet were not a thing. And now you go to a slow pitch softball tournament, and everybody's just hitting them out of the park with these hot bats, and there's hardly no defense. The third baseman has to play on the grass, and pitchers now have to have hockey masks and catchers uniforms on. I don't want to see our sport go to that level, and I don't think we're there yet. And I think the NCAA does do a good job of monitoring of what can we do to help every athlete succeed. It's not like football where it's, hey, let's protect just the quarterback, So
right.
But
I think,
Coach, I appreciate it, man. You bringing me on and talking about all these topics. I don't get a chance to sit down for an hour and 20 minutes and talk all of these topics.
Well, I wanted to do season 2 of the podcast a little bit different. I got a lot of good feedback on some of the guys around the game are like, man, it's just like you're sitting down having a conversation with a buddy. And I said, well, that's the way I want it to be. I don't want it to be overproduced, like we're trying to make something that it's not. It's just, in this case, it's just two guys talking, my opinion, your opinion, our personalities coming through, and we're able to kind of just let it all hang out, because your perspective on things is maybe different from mine, but we're able to kind of talk about the game from where I'm at in South Carolina to where you're at in Virginia, and kind of pick up the stuff that's the same. And then, wait a minute, you know what? And I take notes constantly while we're talking, because there's like different little things that maybe just for myself or, in a different podcast, or just, to ask a question or to kind of drive something home. So, dude, I'm excited to continue doing this. And like I said, I want to have you back on, and maybe in a spot where there's you and a couple other guys, and we can kind of bounce different things off and just really sit on one topic and hammer that out. And, because like I said, you being in the college game and in the travel game, it really helps me understand some things, because I know where you're coming from, because you see it from both sides of it. And kind of the recruiting side to help top hand girls get recruited. What are you looking for? And you're able to ask those right questions to get them to a community college or to get them into D2 or D1. I think it's great.
Awesome. All right, buddy. Thank you.
Take care. Okay. All right, so that's going to be a wrap for episode 1 of season 2. Had a great time talking to Coach Sean. He brings a lot of knowledge. He knows what he's talking about. To a lot of people, it may be a different perspective as far as what goes into the college athlete and what they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And that may help determine, some career goals as far as the education level and the athletic level. It's a lot of different things that go into it, and it's a numbers game to a lot of folks when it comes to tuition costs, in-state, out-of-state. There's a lot of different things. So if you got nothing else other than a new perspective on the college recruiting game, then I think we did our job with this episode. If you like this type of content, make sure you're sharing it to some friends. And when you do, you tell them you love them.
Okay, round 2. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club.
Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry, we were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right, ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.